course. Are we having fun so far? This middle segment is, in my opinion, my favorite part of the show. My co-producer, Dr. Greg Matthews, is a professor at Loyola, associate professor at Loyola, and he takes the topic of the theme, takes a theme and gives a little stat spin, and he gives what I call a guest lecture. So start clapping right now. My co-producer is very funny. Dr. Greg Matthews, everybody.
On video, we have him saying eugenics, and you all just applauded. And I gotta follow that. Great, that's where we're at. So let me explain who I am. My name is Greg Matthews. You can call me Dr. Gregory Matthews, because I have a PhD. And I also have tenure, so I get to do whatever I want. And I'm spending my tenured years writing these guest lectures for this comedy show instead of writing papers that no one's gonna read. I tell jokes that no one's gonna laugh at. So, what I do is I take the theme of the show, because my PhD is in statistics, and I like to put I like to give my statistical opinions about the topic. And so I'm going to talk to you today about ethics in statistics, and there'll be some crossovers here with bioethics, but I'm sort of talking about ethics in general. And I'd like to start with a quote here. At times, profound enlightenment emerges through the demonstration of what not to do, laying bare the unmistakable path to mastery and what to do with absolute lucidity. Does anyone know who said this? Does anyone? My mom. My mom. This is actually Winston Churchill. Winston Churchill said this. And the idea of this quote is that sometimes the best way to learn about what to do is by explaining what not to do, and then we learn what to do, right? That's the idea of this quote. So I'm going to take this quote, and I'm going to show you the ways of being unethical with statistics in hopes that you will do the opposite of what I'm about to show you. So we're going to have some fun with it, because isn't statistics fun? Yes. This is usually the point where in my guest lecture where 3 or 4 people get up and they're like, stats, I'm out. So I'm going to talk about 2 things tonight. I want to talk about data analysis, and I want to talk about data collection and designing experiments, okay? And I'm going to start off by talking about data analysis, and then we're going to get on to the designing experiments. These are sort of 2 really big topics in statistics, designing experiments and then analyzing the data. And I'm first going to start by talking about data analysis. So what I want to talk about is p-hacking. Does anyone know what p-hacking is? Does anyone here know what a p-value is? Has anyone here ever taken a math class? You know what a p-value is. By round of applause, how many people know what a p-value is? If no one applauded, I'd be like, well, shit. No one's going to have any idea what I'm talking about. So I want to talk about p-hacking. What's the magic number? When I do a statistical analysis, I don't even need to say anymore. 0.05 is this magic number. And it's in the literature, and so what scientists try to do is they try to get their p-values to be less than 0.05. And this is the idea of p-hacking as explained with the Drake meme. P-value 0.051, get the fuck out of here. 0.059, give me all the publications. So what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to take data, and I'm going to try to force it to be statistically significant, and we're going to do this at 3 different levels. Easy, medium, and hard, basically. So the first thing I'm going to do at level 1, and I have this quote all over the place in these slides. At level 1, I'm going to start, and I'm going to try to find a relationship between Portland, Oregon transit riders in the 1960s. I'm going to see what this is correlated with. So what I did is I got some data that was completely unrelated to this, and I first looked at the coffee price, the Arabica coffee price from 1960 to 1970, and I looked, and this is a plot of these 2 things, and what you'll see is if you regress against these, the p-value is greater than this magical number of 0.05, and then we have a sad scientist because his work's not going to get published because this p-value is too large. So I went and found something else. I found the sugar price in the US from 1960 to 1970, and when you do this, you get a p-value that is highly significant, and you have celebrating scientists. We have made our p-values less than 0.05. High five, we've done a good job. And so what I'm saying here is that the price of sugar is highly related to Portland area transit riders. And this kind of research will get you your PhD, right? That's level 1. You do some research, you get a p-value less than 0.05. They give you the degree, okay? Level 2. I'm going to look at billionaires now, okay? So I have all these billionaires, and I want to try to come up with predictors that predict their wealth. and I'm only looking at billionaires. So I'm going to look at billionaires, and I have the covariates birth month and birthday. By the way, all this data is real, all this analysis is real, all these p-values are real, okay? I want to try to predict, using birth month and birthday, to see if I can make a model with significant predictors that is going to predict the wealth of billionaires. And so when you just look at birth months, this is just the numeric number. January is 1, December is 12. We get a p-value that's not significant, all right? This is just, the response here is wealth, and the birth month is not significant. Well, that's not good. That's not good enough for me. I know that I want to find birth month be related to billionaires' wealth. Let's try a little bit harder. And so I take a log transformation, and I get a little bit closer, but still not enough to the magic number. I have 0.0916. So, I don't know what... I'm going to need you to explain why you just said Taylor Swift. What does that have to do with anything?
She's a billionaire, come on.
I thought you were like, 0.0916, that's Taylor Swift. How do you know wait, hold on, you're saying she's not on my list here? Well, this is top 10 by year. Well, yeah, that's a different issue, though. Okay, all right. I'm not getting into that. All right. So we have 0.0916, right? And that's not good enough for me. So what I'm going to do is I looked at the list of things not to do, and I said, let's just throw out some values that I don't want that aren't going to help. And so what I did is I threw out anyone over $60 billion, and when you do this, you get your p-value to be magically less than 0.05, and we can say that birth month is statistically related, it's statistically significant in predicting billionaires' wealth, and I have hit the wrong button. Shit, oh, there we go. And what we see here is that December babies are wealthier than January babies. If you're born at the end of the month, end of the year, you are generally wealthier as a billionaire than the beginning of the month. Great. So next step is let's look at birthday. If you put birthday in by itself, highly significant. This is the day of the month that you were born, okay? So then billionaires born on the 30th of the month are wealthier than billionaires born on the 1st of the month. That's easy to get a p-value less than 0.05, but now I want to add them both to a single model, and when I put them into a single model, I get one variable that's not significant. And so what I did is I said, let's try removing some outliers. I remove the 60 million, and I get closer. I get these to both be near 0.1. I have 0.01 and 0.108 and 0.126. And then instead of looking at just months, I tested a whole bunch of different groups. I said, all right, let's look at one month by itself versus the other months. And I found out that like December looked good, and then I said, all right, let's try some other months. And I found out that if you group December and May together, and you look at those people versus not December and May, you can get a statistically significant p-value here. This is what tenure looks like. I spent a lot of time finding these things. What this model is saying here is that if your birthday is later in the month, you are generally wealthier on average if you're a billionaire, and if you're born in May or December, you are less wealthy as a billionaire. And this is statistically significant. So fight me. So this is the interpretation, and then my argument here, if I had to make a story up, I would say that in these 2 months, these are when finals happen, and so these billionaires were probably in college, and they were celebrating their birthdays during finals. They skipped finals, and they did poorly in classes, which led to them being slightly lower billionaires because they didn't do as well in school. That's the story I would have. I would come up with this when I publish this in a journal. And this type of research, how good is this? This gets you tenure. All right? So step one, you get a PhD. Step 2, you have a multiple regression model that gets you tenure. Let's go nuts with it, though. So level 3, yeah. Let's try to predict the number of sunspots on the sun. So I got a data set that has a daily number of sunspots, and then I just went and got a shitload of financial data, and I said, let's make a giant model that can predict sunspots. So let's see how nuts we can go with this. I'm only going to present the final results to you, and here they are. We have I'm going to try to predict the number of sunspots on a given day. My covariates are commodity prices, gold prices, stock prices, and crypto returns. And here's the intercept of this model. We have the tomato price, highly significant. As tomato price goes up, we get less sunspots. We also have coffee price, highly significant. We have gold price, highly significant. We have silver price, highly significant. And then the most important things here are the change in the price of Starbucks stock in a given day. And then finally, we have the change in the price of Dogecoin, and that is positively related with the number of sunspots. the bigger the jump in Dogecoin in a day, the larger the number of sunspots there are on a given day. And it's all statistically significant, p-value less than 0.05. And what does this get you? If the first one got you a PhD and the next one got you tenure, this is good enough for a Nobel Prize in economics. Which, by the way, is not a real Nobel Prize. It's not one of the originals. It's kind of a garbage Nobel, if you're asking me. All right. All right. So that was the first part. I'm going to talk about the second part, data collection and designing experiments. Now, I want to remind you, at times profound enlightenment emerges through the demonstration of what not to do, laying bare the unmistakable path to mastery and what to do with absolute lucidity. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to demonstrate the what not to do by attempting to design a fictional study that is as unethical as possible. All right? With the caveat that I'm not going to I'm going to do it without mentioning war crimes, right? I don't want, we got to keep it light. It's a comedy show. We could get more unethical with war crimes, but let's try to do it without the war crimes. Step one, start with a huge financial conflict of interest. This is always the best place to start. And bonus points if a shady lawyer is involved. All right? Look at them. Step two, understand informed consent. These are all things that you have for informed consent. Emily was talking about informed consent before, and what you want to do with informed consent is do nothing about it. Don't ask any of the research participants, don't tell them anything. We then have HHS regulations, 45 CFR, which I looked up, and these are groups that require additional protections. I'm not going to use the first group. They work too hard. Pregnant women are the hardest working people in the world. I'm not going to use prisoners because I'm avoiding war crimes. One person. And I'm going to use children here. I'm going to design a study without informed consent with a financial conflict of interest, and I'm using children. And there are bonus points if you collect data while the kids are at a birthday party. That's bonus. No, this is what not to do. This is not what I would do. Do you understand? Okay. This is the opposite of what you would do. Okay. So there's this thing called the Institutional Review Board, and the idea here is that you propose your subjects, and you have human subjects. So what you're going to want to do with the Institutional Review Board is ignore it entirely. Don't talk to them at all. Just move on with your life. Do nothing. Subject participants subject participants to procedures that do not benefit the study. And so what we're going to do is, it's bonus if it's painful and invasive. So let's give all these kids spinal taps. This is what not to do. Okay. So then let's think about statistical considerations once I've collected my data. Sample size, let's say 12 is a good sample size. Don't even think about including controls. Throw out any data points that don't help, like I just showed you with my p-values. Step 7 is publish, and that's how you get your tenure, right? And so this is the worst possible study, and then you publish. Step 8 is a little bit surprising. Step 8 is actually date Elle Macpherson for a few years. It's a little bit surprising that that's step 8 of the worst designed clinical trial. Now, I was telling my students about this morning, and it came to my attention that no one has any idea who Elle Macpherson is. And I was like, oh my God, she was a huge celebrity. And then I realized, I had a moment where I was like, oh my God, I'm old. I'm really old. So Elle Macpherson, I have to explain it now, which is the best part about comedy is when you have to explain all your references. So Elle Macpherson was a supermodel in the 80s, and she was on the cover of the Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition like 5 or 6 times. All right, that's who Elle Macpherson was, and that is relevant to, okay, all right, well, no one knows who she is. So here's the thing. We did it. We designed the worst possible study. Liar! What did I say, though? I said, I am guilty as charged. I am a liar. I said I was going to try to design the fictional study that is as unethical as possible. And I tried to do this, and I couldn't beat reality. This is all a real trial. This really fucking happened. I didn't make any of that up. I started making one up, and then I was like, wait a second, this is all just this trial. This is a guy named Andrew Wakefield, and he's the reason why people think that MMR vaccines are related to autism, all right? He's kind of a shitbag, all right? And I was like, I went on his Wikipedia page, and I was like, wait a second, he really dated Elle Macpherson from 2017 to 2019. And so I was like, all right, this is on Wikipedia, this is clearly made up. And so I was like, that's a pretty funny joke, but no, it's fucking real. He really dated Elle Macpherson, and she's like, I don't know, she's like 58 or whatever right now, and they dated for 2 years. She was married to a billionaire, they got divorced, and she immediately started dating this guy. What a world we live in, it's the strangest timeline. The point here is that, whether it's true or not, the idea of repetition, by repeating this over and over again, that MMR vaccines are related to autism, Whether or not that's true, just by repeating something over and over again, it gives it meaning. And this is problematic because people actually believe this stuff right now. So the repetition is what gives it meaning, just like this quote that I made up here. This isn't actually Winston Churchill, it's actually no one. I just made up this quote so that I could use it to justify doing things the wrong way. It's a ChatGPT quote. And so the reason this is bad is because in 2000, there were 86 cases of measles, and the U.S. declared it eliminated, and now in 2019, measles cases are starting to come back. And so you see in 2019, we had 940 measles cases in the U.S., and this is bad. And this can largely be attributed to this paper that has been since retracted. It has a million problems with it that I just showed you, and it's really bad. So Andrew Wakefield, in summary, financial conflicts of interest. He was an unethical researcher. He had his medical license removed. He now lives in the U.S., by the way, because of course we'd have him. He's responsible for lowering MMR vax rates, causing an increase in measles after the U.S. declared the disease eradicated in 2000. But also, maybe kind of worth it? She is appalled with me. I mean, maybe? It was only less than 1,000 measles cases. All right, what have we learned today? Winning a Nobel Prize in economics is easy. Sunspots are caused by Dogecoin prices. And there are 3 types of men beautiful women want: billionaires, athletes and actors, and anti-vaxxers. Thank you for coming to the show. The dream problem. Come on, blue sky,
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, Greg, just because this is the sorry, Sam, I'll bring you up. Just because this is the bioethics, I'm curious about your opinion that if you can find significant correlation between a lot of things, and there's a lot of things you can't causally perturb, how do we find if something is really causes the other thing, or is implicated in the other thing?
You want the real statistical answer?
Or what is your opinion?
How to find how to avoid p-hacking? So this is my real statistical answer is there's this idea of called pre-registration, where if you're going to test something, you want to list out what it is you're testing before it, right? And you say, here's the things that I want to test for it. You go collect your data. You go and do your study. You get your p-values. You have to adjust for multiple comparisons. The classic one is like a Bonferroni correction. But you don't want to get in the habit of collecting a bunch of data and then post-hoc saying, oh, well, let's go back and test this, go back and test this. Because then you can really start to do p-hacking when you're just searching for that p-value that is going to be less than 0.05. And you can get into like lots of trouble. Bad science happens.
It's weird seeing you serious, Greg.
So I do. I mean, I didn't just happen to get tenure. I do sometimes.
All right, give it up for Dr. Brad Matthews, everybody. Oh, give it up for him. Okay.